Hey guys, it's Anna, and today I have a tutorial for you in Excel about how to use the XLOOKUP formula. So this is a formula that you would use if you've got information on two different sheets and you want to pull information from one sheet into another based on something that matches, like a student ID number. So I've got some sample data here. I've got two sheets here with different data. And you can also do this if you've got two separate spreadsheets, like two separate workbooks, or if they're both in the same sheet, that works too. So I'm going to show you just the simplest version, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with named ranges, which actually is a little bit simpler in my book. So here I've got some data. Let's say I wanted to add the date of birth to this sheet. And date of birth is one of the items I have on this other sheet called student data. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do equals XLOOKUP. And it's giving me a suggestion here of what I might be trying to type. So I'm just going to hit tab to accept that. And then it actually gives me here the cheat sheet about how to write this formula. So I'm going to start by my lookup value. That's what is it from this sheet that I'm looking up on the other sheet. So that's going to be the student ID number. So I'm going to click on that in the same row. And then comma. Lookup array is where do I want to look up that student ID number. So I'm going to go to my other sheet and select all the student IDs. I'll just select the whole column. Comma. And then return array is what's the information I'm looking to fill in here. So I'm wanting to fill in birth dates. So I'm going to select birth dates. And then you could do if not found, which would be what should it do if it doesn't find that student in the list. I'm not going to add any of these other options. I'm just going to leave it at that. So I'm going to close my parentheses here to finish my formula and hit enter to accept. Notice it gives me a number here instead of a date. This is called a serial number, and it's just a different way of displaying dates or calculating with dates in Excel. I can change the format of this to a date, and it'll update how it looks. All right, I can fill this down for the rest of my data, and now I've got dates of birth for all my students. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do this. That's the simplest version of it. Now I'm going to show you how to do it with named ranges, which takes an extra step, but I think makes the formula part a lot easier. So I'm going to come over to student data, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this whole column. Click on the letter A at the top to select the whole column, and I'm going to name it perm, like that's my perm ID numbers. I'm going to choose the address column, and I'm going to name it address. Choose the city, state, or zip column, and I'm going to call it city. And notice that to do a name, I just select a section of my sheet and then type a name in this box up here where it did have the cell reference, and then hit enter to accept. And I'll call this DOB. Now your names cannot have any spaces or symbols in them, and I like to keep them as short and simple as possible so that I can use them to write formulas with. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to add an address to this sheet. And I'm going to use that XLOOKUP again, and look how it's easier now that I have named ranges. So I'm going to start to type XLOOKUP. I'll hit tab to accept the suggestion. My lookup value is still going to be my student ID number. My lookup array is called perm, and I'll know I've typed the name correctly because it'll come up as a suggestion here, and I can hit tab to accept. What information do I want back? I want the address back, and then close parentheses and hit enter, and now I've got the address for that student. And just as easily, I can get the city, state, zip. So I'm going to do XLOOKUP. My lookup value is this student ID number again. I want to look it up under the column called Perm. And what do I want it to give me back? The name of that column was City, and close parentheses and enter. And that's filled in the city-state zip. And that is how you get started with the XLOOKUP formula. I think it's pretty easy and it's a good way to pull data over. One thing to know about this, if you've got a lot of data, like for instance, let's say your student data sheet over here included data for every student in your school. And maybe on this sheet, you're pulling, right here, we're pulling 3 different things from the other sheet. What if we were pulling 5 or 6 or 7 for 3,000 students? That would take a lot of calculation, because every time you fill in another formula, it's going to recalculate everything. So sometimes what I like to do when I get everything set up the way I want it, let's say I'm going to send this spreadsheet back to a teacher, I might select all the places where I had put a formula and do copy. And then in that same spot, do paste values. It's this first one with the 1, 2, 3 on it. And what I did is I got rid of the formulas there, and now it's just the data that's there. And that can be helpful so that the spreadsheet's not running so slowly when you've got a large chunk of data. Also, if I were pulling information for one teacher here, and maybe this student data tab has all my students' information, I wouldn't want to send that tab back to the teacher when I send them the spreadsheet. So now that I have changed all these to paste as values and there are no more formulas, I don't actually need the other sheet anymore, and I can delete it. And you can see it doesn't mess with my data here because I copied and pasted as values. And now this would be ready to send back to a teacher. So that's just an example of how you can use XLOOKUP to pull additional information into a spreadsheet from another sheet. Thanks, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.